If you've ever heard of the roguelike genre, you may have wondered how these games are like Rogue. What is the rogue that the genre refers to? Well, they're like Rogue, the 1980 video game. Rogue is a dungeon crawling game that is characterized by its procedural or random generation, turn based gameplay, and permadeath. There is nothing that is carried from one run to another. The only thing that changes is that the player has more knowledge of how to more effectively play the game. Games that use these mechanics are roguelikes. But what is a roguelite? If roguelikes are like Rogue, then roguelites are a little less like Rogue. You may have heard of roguelikes and roguelites and thought they are interchangeable. Though many people do use them interchangeably, they are technically not the same genre, but they do share a lot of similarities. So I want to clear up some misconceptions before I get too far into this video. Crash course time. A roguelike is a game that is very similar to Rogue. In fact, there's a piece of text that's a little bit controversial, but it works for our purposes, called the Berlin interpretation of roguelikes. It talks about a few high and low value factors that make up a roguelike. A few of the high level factors include random environment generation, permadeath, turn based gameplay, and the graphics should be grid based or tile based. This isn't all of them, and it's more descriptive rather than prescriptive, but I feel like these are the most important ones to mention. A roguelite loosens this definition quite a bit. The main gameplay elements that make a roguelite are simply the randomness between runs and the permadeath. Even the permadeath is slightly more lax. There is often meta progression in a roguelite, meaning you have some progress between runs. The games are often not tile based or turn based either. So, why bring this all up? The roguelite genre is absolutely huge nowadays and is honestly a large part of my own time spent gaming. I went through my games on Steam and tallied up my playing time on all of the roguelites I own. I have around 2,400 hours in various roguelites. That's 100 days of playing time. And every day I'm loading up Slay the Spire 2, adding many more hours to that count. That is why I wanted to play Rogue and talk about it, even though it's not on the list. If you go look at the Wikipedia list that I'm following, you'll notice that Rogue is missing. I imagine that the game was just very niche in the years after it came out and never really got the recognition it needed until the genre really popped off in the mid 2010s with games like Spelunky and The Binding of Isaac. So I wanted to play it for myself. I want to know what was so special about the game that spawned probably my favorite genre in gaming. So, what is it like to play today? I kind of skipped the preamble I normally do where I explain the game, so here I go. Rogue is a dungeon crawler that attempts to give the player a similar feeling to text adventure games, but with randomness between playthroughs. This means you can play it multiple times rather than knowing all the steps to finish the game once you've beat it before. The game is also graphical rather than on a command line. Its earliest version using ASCII text to render everything from the walls to the items to the player character. The goal of Rogue is to venture down a dungeon to find the amulet of Yendor. You must fight monsters such as bats, orcs, leprechauns, and more that come across your path as you make your way down the dungeon. On your way, you find items like potions, scrolls, and new weapons. The items you find are non-descriptive until you identify them with a scroll. The potions and scrolls differ between runs, adding to the differences between each of them. So, is it to play? Let's start with the combat of Rogue, as it is one of the main ways that you interact with the game. You attack by just walking into an enemy, and the game makes an attack roll based on your weapon. This is not a very interesting way to engage with the game. There is very little difference in feeling between a sword and a mace, for example. Each weapon has a different set of damage rolls, but none of this is displayed to the player, making it feel like you aren't doing much when you attack an enemy. You can try to shoot arrows from afar, but the act of using the bow is incredibly tedious. You first need to wield the bow, then you need to press the throw hotkey, choose a direction, then choose to throw an arrow. This made me never really want to use the bow as I was playing, even if it was optimal in certain situations. I am surprised that the game doesn't have a simple hotkey to shoot arrows in a certain direction. This sort of made the combat much more satisfying and given a lot more variety in the game. The dungeon generation is pretty well done, considering the limitations of the hardware. It starts off simple, just rectangular rooms connected by hallways. But it gets more interesting later with traps, secret rooms, and dark rooms where you can't see. The more you walk around, the hungrier your character gets. If you are low on food, having to search for a hidden entrance or exploring a dark room can make a difference in your ability to progress in an interesting way. There are 26 monsters, one for each letter of the alphabet. The monsters also get stronger and more interesting as you explore, adding some variety as you go down the dungeon. Quite a few of the monsters have a special ability, adding to some variety of the gameplay. While the monsters get stronger, so do you as you find better armor, weapons, rings, and identify more scrolls and potions. Unfortunately, the tedium of the game prevented me from ever trying to actually win a run. I just never felt the desire to try to figure out everything. Eventually, I just started pressing forward on enemies and hope I killed them before they killed me. I'm not sure if I would say that Rogue deserves to be considered one of the best games of all time, but its influence cannot be overstated. It is the roots of a massive family tree that includes some of the most acclaimed and fun games coming out today. Thanks for watching. Next time on WikiQuest, I'll be playing Defender. Bye bye.